Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson put on an absolute show at the Tulsa Shootout, and is Helio Castroneves about to make his first ever attempt at the Daytona 500 next month? Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. Got the flannel on today. Back-to-back videos. I know it's the off season, but we got a lot of news that's coming out right now. And it's a Sunday. I'm about to have a foot of snow outside, so we're going to make a video here real quick. Let's get into what we want to talk about, though. And we'll start off actually reverse order from what I kind of introed at there at the beginning. We're going to start off with Helio Castroneves. Is he about to make his first ever attempt at the Daytona 500? Of course, the four-time Indianapolis 500 winner, a household name amongst motorsport fans. I'm sure Paul Tracy's probably going to come at me for saying that he's a four-time winner of it. Obviously, 2002, a little controversial there. But it appears that Helio will finally get his, much anticipated debut at the Daytona 500. Well, at least an attempt to qualify for the Daytona 500. Obviously, back in 2022, Helio won in the SRX series. And then CEO of SRX, Don Hawk, said that he would help Helio find a NASCAR Cup Series ride. They failed to do it in 23. They failed to do it in 24. It does now appear that he is going to get that chance in 2025 because on Sunday, the Trackhouse Project number 91 car tweeted out testing 1, 2, 3. Probably should have done 1, 2, 3, 4, but that probably would have just tipped too many people off. That Twitter account doesn't very rarely tweets out. It's only tweeted out a couple times through 2024, and we haven't seen the Trackhouse Project 91 car on track since the Indianapolis Road Course back in 2023 with Shane Van Gisbergen. It went dormant for the 2024 season, and now it's back, maybe, for the 2025 season. At the same time, though, Helio Castroneves posted on his Instagram story that he has a big announcement coming up on Tuesday, January 7th. Is it just a coincidence that the two of them went up there? I'm sure it is, right? Like the two probably have nothing to do with each other. It does very much appear that Helio Castroneves will make an attempt at the Daytona 500 with Trackhouse. Now, I say attempt because there are no guarantees that he is going to be in this race. That is an open car. He will have to qualify for this race. If he doesn't get in on speed, he's going to have to race his way in through the duels, and this is a type of racing that he has never really done before. Yeah, he's been in the draft at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but he hasn't been in the draft like it is at Daytona. He hasn't had to rely on somebody else pushing him to get there. So it'll be really interesting to see how he adapts to it. And obviously NASCAR is going to have to approve him to run this. And I think that is maybe a topic for discussion as well, because he doesn't have any super speedway experience. Now, of course, if he goes out there and runs the ARCA race before the Cup race, they're going to be like, yeah, that's fine. And that's kind of the same thing they did with SVG when he went to the Xfinity Series last year. Is he ran the ARCA race and NASCAR's like, yeah, you're fine. Like, go ahead and race the Xfinity Series race. I think it's just about getting some reps in a stock car on a super speedway, like just getting acclimated to sort of that style of racing. Obviously, Helio is an accomplished race car driver. There's no doubts about that. But I think it's a conversation that should probably be had within the NASCAR headquarters. I'm sure it has at some point as well. For Helio, though, like I said, he's going to have to qualify. You have Jimmy Johnson in the 84 Legacy car that's also going to be attempting to qualify. You have Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 car. I think they announced the 56. That's going to have to qualify as well as an open car. His car is not going to be entered by 2311 Racing, not going to be entered by Jogo's Racing because they can't. They're already maxed out at 4 cars. Seemingly, rumors suggest that it'll be entered by a Truck Series team. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to go forward. And then you have MBM announcing that they're going to attempt with Mike Wallace. Then you also have the AmVet team. We'll see if they actually show up and want to race. And then you'll probably have a couple of others in there as well. So there's going to be a lot of competition for those 4 spots, assuming that all the legal stuff stays how it is now in terms of the car count that we currently have. We are back to 36 charters as it currently stands. We'll wait and see how NASCAR's appeal plays out there. But for Helio, this is a big chance for him. Obviously, he's a 4-time Indianapolis 500 winner. I say big chance, meaning like it would be cool for him to get the opportunity to race on Sunday in the Daytona 500 because there's not a ton of guys that have ever raced in both of the the 2 biggest races in North America. So it'd be cool to see him be able to add his name to the list of it there. And for Trackhouse, like that is one of the coolest lineups that you could possibly have. Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Helio Castroneves. Just 4 guys from 4 very different walks of life. Just a pretty cool mashup mixing pot of different disciplines, different backgrounds, different nationalities. Like, that is pretty cool overall. I know some people probably won't like it, but it is cool nonetheless. So yeah, interested to see how all that plays out. I guess we have to sit around and wait for Tuesday to roll around. We'll see what happens then. And then if you missed it on Saturday night, you weren't tuned into the Tulsa Shootout on Flow. First off, why? I'm sure you probably have a life. I was actually working on something, had my phone set up in the garage so I could, keep track of all of it going on. Fantastic racing all week at the Tulsa Shootout, capped off by one of the best races you'll ever see at the Tulsa Shootout on Saturday night in the non-wing outlaw race. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson going at it once again in the Tulsa Expo Center, this time not at the Chili Bowl, not yet at least. Instead, it was at the Tulsa Shootout. 55 laps, and it was great top to bottom. You had Kyle Larson starting back in P14, Christopher Bell starting up at the front like P4 in that range right there. 39 laps to go. Bell moves into second place. You're like, okay, he's probably going to take the lead here and, maybe run away with this. No, he just kind of rode around in second for a while there. Larson doesn't crack the top 10 or top 5 rather until there's 21 laps to go in the race. So he basically spent like 35 laps of this race, 34 laps of this race outside of the top 5. That's when things get really interesting, because with 19 laps to go, Christopher Bell takes the lead for the first time. And it's like, okay, now Bell's going to take the lead. Now Bell's going to check out. And that's going to be how it is. But no, Steven Snyder Jr. just comes absolutely rocketing by him. The kid was just ripping on the top there, gets around Bell, and then he opens up this big gap. But then with 10 laps to go, he hops over the cushion, bangs the right rear into the wall, and you can tell something's a little bit wrong there. Bell gets back around him for the lead, and then Snyder would eventually fade because he had a flat right rear happening there. But then with 7 laps to go, Larson hops up into P3, and it's like, okay, are we about to get this Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell battle that we've seen happen a number of times over in the Chili Bowl side of things? Is it going to happen now again here at the Tulsa Shootout? And it absolutely did. A late caution comes out, sets up a short run to the flag there at the end, and Larson was absolutely ripping the wall. He was literally riding the wall like he was Ross Chastain, finding an entirely new and different line around the racetrack, going in high, riding the wall, and then trying to turn down off of it. It was really entertaining to watch. He picked up a ton of speed doing it. You could visibly see the speed that he had in the center of the corner from doing that. But ultimately, it was Christopher Bell coming out on top as Larson went to the bottom. Bell goes to the top on the last lap, last corner. Bell gets that big run off, and he beats Larson to the line by 1/10 of a second. Larson comes in second, once again to Christopher Bell. Is that a precursor to what we're going to see at the Chili Bowl in about a week's time? Guess we're going to have to sit around and wait and see how all that plays out. But for Larson, he got out of the car after the race and he was like, yeah, I'm happy that Christopher Bell's back racing dirt. The sport needs it. They need guys like him out here. Bell gets out. He thanks Joe Gibbs for allowing him to go race dirt, which was really cool in itself. But Larson didn't go home empty-handed, though. He still won 2 Golden Drillers on Saturday night. He won the Winged Outlaw and the Winged A-Class races on Saturday night. Was going for 3 for 4, which would have been pretty cool for him. But ultimately, the fans were treated to an absolute banger of a race, 55 laps on Saturday night to cap everything off. Now, remember, the Chili Bowl was 55 laps. It has moved back down to 40 laps for this year, which was always its traditional run until 2013 when they switched it, or 2014 when they switched it to 55. It's back down to 40. You'll be interested to see how all that plays out. But on Saturday night, more laps gave us an even better finish than what we would have had. So worked out pretty well. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about Helio Castroneves potentially making his NASCAR Cup Series debut at the at the Daytona 500 rather, with Trackhouse in that Project 91 car, and what you thought about Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson going head to head at the Tulsa Shootout, and is that going to be a precursor to what we're going to see in the Chili Bowl coming up in about a week's time? Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.